Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our three-part educational program series on artificial intelligence and elections. I am Frances Zahn with the League of Women Voters, Southwest Santa Clara Valley. We are one of the 5 leagues in the Bay Area. Next slide, please. Before we begin, just a quick background of the League of Women Voters. Sophia, could we go back to the previous slide? Oh. The League has been empowering voters and defending democracy for over 100 years. The League has 2 distinct roles. One is voter service and public education. The other is action and advocacy. So today, in the first session of this series, we will learn some basics about AI and how it could put our democracy and elections at risk. It's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker today, Ms. Susan Gonzalez. She is the founder of a nonprofit, AI and You, which works to educate marginalized communities about artificial intelligence in an easy to understand language. She is also a co-chair of education and awareness on the National AI Advisory Committee, advising the Biden administration on the National AI Initiative. She was previously a policy executive with Facebook and other technology companies and has many years of experience in Silicon Valley and Washington, D.C. Before we begin, just a quick note for the audience. This session will be recorded for anyone who missed the session. The video will be posted on our website and our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions during our session, please type them into the chat. At the end of our session, we'll have some time for a short Q&A. Please mute yourself and close your video for this session. And thank you. So now I will hand it over to Susan to lead our conversation.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me. I have to, do a shout out to your league because not everybody actually understands the depth of AI and why everybody needs to understand AI. Hold on one second. I need to fix my screen. 1 second. Anyway, so kudos to you guys for putting together this event, because really one of the most important things right now is to encourage marginalized communities, including women, to be curious about AI. Definitely as it relates to election, but more broadly, now is a time for us to, want to learn more wherever we can. I heard recently, for those of you who may have heard about generative AI or a tool called ChatGPT, it's a new, very well-known AI tool. And I recently saw that 70% of the users to date in about 1.5 years are men. So that's just not a good sign, right? For, where we are and what we need to learn as women. So I'm super excited to be here. So we are here to talk about the election and misinformation, and really to shed light or really demystify, what that means, and why is it different this election than it was last. And most importantly, to talk about all the things that are happening and that could possibly happen, with the ultimate goal of helping you understand how to protect your vote this year. Of course, it's something to protect always, but we are now in an unprecedented phase with technology, and we have never seen anything that we're going to see and are starting to see with the election. So today we're going to talk about it in super simple terms. And I'll go over some things, show a couple literally 3-minute videos just to lay some foundation, and then talk about the election, and then open it up for Q&A. So the interesting thing about AI is overall, there is a very low awareness level. So you're not alone. I think there's the studies I saw, especially for people of color, it's down about like 30%, and women are not too far off as well. And we're going to start with just a real basic, and then you would talk about algorithms and help you understand what those are. But artificial intelligence, the easiest way to think about it really is instructing the computer to think like a human, to mimic the human intelligence. So that's why it's called artificial intelligence. The goal is that it mimic human intelligence. And how it does that really is with data. And the data that's used to create algorithms, which help the AI run, and I'll show you a video on algorithms in just a minute. The data that helps create the algorithms is created from us. It's that simple, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But every time we are on a website, every time we click, there's a reason, for example, that your favorite streaming service offers you your favorite movie now, because our clicks are creating a behavior. And so the AI now, it couldn't do it before, the AI now can deduce essentially what we like based on our behavior from the data that we create. Now, there are really great things happening with all this data and AI. For example, and I'm a breast cancer survivor myself, there's some like incredible things happening with AI assisting physicians and like breast cancer surgeons to identify, certain types of cancer much sooner and more accurately, because the AI can access all kinds of data that it couldn't before. So think about in the past, we had to rely on the doctor writing their notes. Well, now their doctor can like use an AI tool on the computer and access tons and tons and tons of data that can help them make more accurate decisions. Now I give all that background, or even think about like how we can grocery shop now, or order Instacart or DoorDash or whatever, but we weren't able to do that 4 years ago. And so that's the key to today's conversation, is that all of these amazing things, and some that aren't so amazing, let's face it, AI can go wrong, and we'll talk about that, talk a bit about that as well. But a lot of these things that we have today, these now that we've become used to every day, they were not here 4 years ago. So the same technologies that we are, enjoying are also the technologies that are allowing bad actors out there. And while we would like to believe it's not true, but it is. And so 4 years ago, it would have taken, let's say, someone who was in technology to be able to create what's called a deep fake. And we'll talk about that, like a fake video. Not today. I mean, today anybody can. And in fact, over the summer, I wanted to know what it took to create a deep fake. And I hired my 17-year-old family member who was on his way to college. And he created a deep fake just by, searching online how to do it in like 8 hours. And so that's what we're talking about, is the ability for your average person today can create all kinds of misinformation, meaning information that is incorrect, meaning we could believe that a certain candidate is saying something when that's not even the candidate. It's all created with AI. It's all computer generated. And it just happened last week, there's AI generated robocalls. And there was one last week where it was the voice of President Biden. It was not President Biden. It was AI generated. So those are the types of things that we'll cover. But what I'll do to set the groundwork is to give you broad background on AI. And as I mentioned, AI runs on algorithms. And you may have heard of algorithmic bias AI. And what that is when the algorithms are developed, maybe they're using bad data, right? So let's say for a disease, but they're only gathering data from one community, let's say men. And the results then are not going to be accurate for women. So that's when algorithms can be biased, when they're using just bad data. And so you get a bad outcome. But let's show a quick little video on algorithms to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and we'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered how your favorite online shopping sites suggest the perfect items you didn't even know you needed or wanted? Or what about your GPS system? How did it know you wanted to go home, or even how to get there? Sometimes it can feel like the internet is collecting information based on your own needs. How does that happen? How does the internet make things so easy for you to find things specifically for you? The answer can be summed up in one word: algorithm. Today, we're going to top 3 things you should know about an algorithm. Number 1, what is an algorithm? There's a good chance you've heard the word before. Maybe you've heard that computers uses algorithms, or maybe you've heard someone say, the algorithm on that site really knows what I like. Okay, let's start with artificial intelligence, or AI, and machine learning. Artificial intelligence, AI, is the simulation of human intelligence by computers. Basically, AI mimics human thinking at warp speed with massive amounts of available data on the internet. AI does what the human brain cannot do. AI instructs the algorithm to use really large quantities of data very quickly and to learn from it. This is called machine learning. Okay, imagine walking into a bakery. You walk in, you see all your favorite pastries, so many varieties, so many options. It took recipes to make all of your favorites. When you are browsing the internet, you see the result of a lot of work that took place behind the scenes. Algorithms are the recipes at work behind the internet. Everything on the internet and many things around us work because of algorithms. Basically, the computer is learning from our clicks and behaviors. Algorithms apply what it learns from your clicks to get better at what it is intended to do. For example, a shopping site would like you to buy more products, so the algorithm instructs the computer to offer you more products based on what you like. It's pretty simple. An AI algorithm is a set of instructions, a step-by-step guide or recipe written specifically for a computer. The computer uses this data to learn and improve its performance over time. Well, an algorithm looks something like this. Pretty complicated. So how does it work? An algorithm instructs the website how to respond to our clicks, or how to interpret information, or how to guide us to another source of information. Let's go deeper. An algorithm is written by a human being for a computer to follow. You encounter algorithms every day, online or offline. An example. Algorithms are used to program traffic lights while you're out driving. How? A computer determines how long a light should be, red or green, by using real-time traffic data. Similarly, your car's GPS uses algorithms to find the best route for you. When you do things online, algorithms and models are learning about you to improve your experience online. Algorithms can be complex, such as when your doctor searches for the best approach to help with cardiovascular disease. Doctors are relying on complex algorithms in the background to guide them to the best solution. For example, they can access massive amounts of information about other people who had cardiovascular disease. In the past, your doctors could only rely on the notes in their files. Not so much anymore. Pretty neat, right? It sure is. Algorithms are a necessary part of our experiences online and offline everyday life. So what can go wrong with algorithms? Unfortunately, algorithms often do as much harm as they do good. Let me explain. When a person writes an algorithm, they sometimes inject their own unconscious bias into this recipe, which is known as code. In other words, a programmer, the person writing the code, might accidentally transfer some of his or her own prejudices into the code itself. For example, when a Black woman attempted to use computer vision software called facial recognition that was supposed to track her face, she found that it didn't work. The software would not recognize her face. She decided to wear a white mask to see if the AI tool would work, and it did. The algorithm instructions recognized a face when it was white, but would not recognize a black face. That reflects unconscious bias. The person who wrote the code for this facial recognition AI tool did not include instructions to recognize different color faces. Why is that a problem? Well, think about it. Have you been seeing more and more things happening with facial recognition? What if the tool didn't recognize your face? What if you were trying to access healthcare or something that could save a life? You might be asking, how is this even possible? Aren't instructions for computers plain and simple? Well, here's how it happens. Unfortunately, today, many of these programmers or the people writing the recipes are not diverse. As a result, the algorithms may only reflect one perspective and may discriminate against others like women, people of color, disabled, and others. Sometimes the algorithm did not require the computer to consider all types of people in all types of circumstances. This can lead to a lot of unintended consequences impacting marginalized communities. It is imperative that we address the issue of unconscious bias in algorithms. This will happen when we have more perspectives from different people writing these algorithms. The good news is that more and more technology companies are working on creating more inclusive AI to avoid unconscious bias. If you like this video, check out aiandyou.org.
Okay, are we back? So I hope that was helpful and gives you an idea of what an algorithm is and how it relates to the election. Let's jump into the election. So I hope you picked up how our behavior is really what creates the data. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It makes a lot of life a lot easier for us in some ways. And so when it comes to the election, where we need to be really careful as voters is, frankly, what we're clicking on, right? So if you think about it, the last few elections were really decided by women and people of color. And so one would have to deduce that women and people of color are probably likely targets for this election. And I mean from both parties. This is a nonpartisan issue, through and through. And so one of the things is to consider is when we're online is to consider our behavior. And so if we see a video that looks a bit strange, or maybe doesn't even look strange, but the message just seems strange that particular person would be saying that, don't click on it. Because when we start clicking on things like that, we're sending a message basically to the AI saying, oh, I'm interested in this, keep sending me more. So that's something to just be aware of. But why don't we show the elections video? It's similar to the algorithm one. And then and after that, we'll get into some specifics and then open it up to questions. So here we go with the elections video.
Elections have always been about connecting with voters. Campaigns will try almost anything to get your attention and vote. The 2024 election will require you to protect your vote because of recent advancements in artificial intelligence, AI. So how exactly is AI influencing the 2024 election? Well, today we will cover 3 key things you should know about protecting your vote. But let's begin with the big picture. Tools for voter engagement have evolved from telegrams to the internet. Enter 2024, and we find another player in the arena, advanced AI. The 2024 election is all about AI literacy. Voters need a basic understanding of how AI can impact their vote. AI is more than just technology. It reflects our society's evolution. AI has been used in past campaigns to do things such as improve the accuracy of voter registration and voting systems, help campaigns target voters, and optimize their messaging to reach voters. Have you ever considered how recent technological advances have made your lives easier? Think about it. Today, you can grocery shop without ever going to the store. You can do many things today you could not do 4 years ago during the last presidential election. Well, how is this happening? AI powers all the new things we do on our devices. And how does AI work? AI needs data to work. So let's dive into AI in your vote. Number 1, instead of a one-size-fits-all campaign, AI enables hyper-personalized messaging, reaching voters with issues that matter most to them, and swaying voters with true or false information. Analyzing voter data is invaluable. By analyzing real-time data, campaigns can adjust their strategy, making outreach more effective. The efficiency of AI is unmatched, but it's not without its challenges, and the 2024 election will bring unprecedented amounts of disinformation to you, the voters. So what is misinformation or disinformation, and how is it created? To put it simply, misinformation is false. It is information created to trick voters. It is a campaign video created with AI to make you believe something about a candidate that is not true. It is a phone call that sounds like a candidate, but it is actually AI. It is a personalized fundraising letter created with AI. The most prevalent tool for misinformation is called deep fakes. Number 2, no deep fakes. Deep fakes are hyper-realistic but entirely fake content pieces that can be used to spread misinformation. In the past, creating a deep fake would require someone in technology, like someone who writes computer code. Not anymore. Deep fakes can be created by someone from their laptop at home. It's becoming harder to differentiate accurate content from AI-generated ones, and we won't get there in time to navigate truth from fiction during this campaign season. The most troubling aspect of deepfakes is there are no guardrails to protect you as voters. There are no rules, regulations, or consequences related to creating false information during the campaign to protect voters against false news, disinformation, or false narratives. Voters must independently research key issues to determine what is true and false. undecided and new voters are expected to be the targets of political misinformation, which is critical given that the election is expected to be decided by a small percentage of voters in 2024. Remember that not all AI in elections is misinformation. Campaigns also use AI for positive engagement. For example, virtual assistants or chatbots help answer voter inquiries, ensuring accessibility and connection. And local communities can easily leverage new AI tools to organize and mobilize voters. It begins with searching for the best options to meet your needs. The challenges of election misinformation are global issues at all levels of political campaigns. In Toronto, a candidate in the mayoral election who vowed to clear homeless camps released a set of campaign promises illustrated by AI, including fake dystopian images of people camped on a downtown street and a fabricated image of tents set up in a park. Number 3, what must you do to protect your right to vote based on accurate information? Well, the answer is do not believe anything you see, read, or hear until you have researched it in the 2024 election. You will not be able to rely on any one source, whether it is online, on TV, or in the press. Deepfakes are not online only. Broadcast TV networks cannot alter political commercials, which could also be deepfakes. It won't be easy, but do your research to protect your right to vote. To wrap it up, do not believe anything you see, read, or hear in any election. Do your research. Seek trusted sources confirming political deepfakes. Most importantly, protect our democracy and protect your right to vote. If you like this video, check out AI and
Okay, so I hope that sheds some light on misinformation and deep fakes. And again, for those of you who may have missed it, if you just do a search on the AI generated robocall from President Biden last week, you'll get an idea of what we're talking about here. So what's happening regarding guardrails, et cetera, yes, that's true. There are no regulated guardrails. Basically what happened was this technology evolved too quickly, and Congress is trying to catch up on all kinds of fronts, let alone the election. And so the train is moving, and yet at the same time, everyone's trying to build the track, right, as the train is moving. So there's some conversation at the FCC level that they might pass something regarding AI generated images, and some are trying to require a watermark, which is like a see-through logo on AI generated content. But everybody's having those conversations now. Some companies are releasing information saying that they're not going to allow certain AI generated content. And I think that's all, it's all well and good. And yet at the same time, the reality is that the sheer volume of what we're going to encounter over the next 6 months, I don't think it's possible for anybody or any company to keep up with it. And so it will be upon us as voters to really question everything we see, read, or hear. I have to share, a deep fake I saw, it was about a month ago, and it was Taylor Swift promoting Le Creuset cookware. And I like Le Creuset, and it was on Instagram, and it got my attention. And even I know about deep fakes. And for a moment, I sat there and I thought, wow, that is so strange that she is promoting Le Creuset. But, honestly, I could have clicked thinking that I was going to get a special deal. So there's all kinds of deep fakes out there, but we're talking about the election, and we need to really be aware and double check and research and maybe rely on local news. Someone told me once, she said she's just going to rely on the debates, but maybe that's not going to work. Not everybody's going to participate in all the debates. So anyway, I want to open it up to Q&A. I think that's the best way to have a great dialogue and answer any questions, but I hope all the information thus far has been helpful to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Susan. Let me start with the first question I saw from the audience was, how can we stop the flow of misinformation? And I've heard from someone else that said, if you receive or see things on social media, let it sit for a little while. Don't immediately forward it. Maybe check your resources, or maybe wait till the second day to forward things. so that you know it's really true. So that's just something I've heard someone else mention. So do you have any other tips or expand on how can we help to stop the flow of information, misinformation?
Well, one way is not to click on it. So, because again, the more, that's why when something's called, it goes viral, it's because the more it's clicked on, the more it's shared, and the more it's shared, the more it's seen, and the more it's clicked on. So that's number one. But again, there could be content that is going to look so real. Some say, oh, you can tell because the hair doesn't move correctly, or the features are too perfect. But I think for your app, like I can't, I'm not going to, look that closely. So I think that that's the only way we can control the flow, even if there is such a thing.
And then back to the algorithms, it seems like everything we do nowadays can be linked to algorithms and that feeds into the AI. And so how do we know when or where our data is being used by algorithms or AI? Or do we just assume it's anything we do is linked? And do we even have a choice in this matter? Is there any way we can opt out of our data being used in this way?
Well, that's the, $1 million question, especially on Capitol Hill, is how to protect data and privacy. But one thing that one would say, oh, those agreements that we all just scroll all the way down, that are like, 8 pages and hit agree whenever we sign up for something new online. Somewhere in there, we're agreeing to this. Now, one way and one way we can protect ourselves now, although I know cookies are going away, but for example, when you go to a website and I think they're required now to ask, tell you that they use cookies, there is always a way to click on something and to uncheck unnecessary cookies. So a cookie basically is, this is my interpretation, back in the day of the cookie jars, right? Gotcha, like someone's got their hand caught in a cookie jar. So the cookies, like, you get caught basically when you click on it. And so you're creating more of a digital footprint. So you can uncheck a lot of those.
I see another question here that's asking, is there a site or some resources like is it Snopes.com that can help us determine if something is true or false?
More, that's under TBD again. Unfortunately, this technology just accelerated in the last, 18 months, and it's called generative AI. And that's another topic. Actually, we could follow up another time to have a conversation specifically on generative AI. And so when generative AI became mainstream about 18 months ago, it's this tool that allows a lot of this information. So that's why there's basically, frankly, everybody's behind because it just happened so quickly.
So then as AI capabilities grow so rapidly, what do you think is the responsibility of the tech companies, for protecting consumers as they roll out these tools, or their platforms enable these capabilities?
Yeah. Well, I was at a tech company, and I have a full appreciation and understanding of how fast things move very quickly, right? Everything moves so quickly. And so I think that I think everybody's trying to do their best in creating responsible AI. And really, it's more to come because it's all happening now. And, we've already learned, we learned a few years ago about where, for example, facial recognition goes wrong, right? And so there are some big companies that put their facial recognition tools off for the very reason in the video. I mean, they can be very biased. So yeah.
And I know you're with a background with tech companies. So do you know of any like realistically, like Facebook or Instagram, what are they able to do to curb the risks of AI, whether if it's something they have implemented already or something maybe they are thinking of doing?
Well, actually, Meta just made an announcement last week. I mean, these things are happening real time, as in like this week, last week. And so I would say you can get a lot of information on my website at aiandu.org, and then you go to the elections section. And so what I do is keep very updated articles. And so you can always just check in so you don't have to do all your searching. And I just capture all the best articles. And we did post the most recent one about Meta, or you can just find it. Essentially, if I remember there correctly, it's regarding a watermark. Most importantly, tech companies are coming out to say, we're not going to allow misinformation. Well, that's a bit of a stretch. I don't know. Maybe that can happen. I don't know. Yeah.
I see another question here that says, since we're in California, are we protected under the CCPA, or does the CCPA need to evolve?
Well, I think that's a good question. I don't know about that, but what I do know is there are no, federal regulations around this. And I don't know about anything at the state level, because again, this is new. So there even though something may have been written, they couldn't have been written exactly for this because this didn't exist. So possibly, I don't know.
And we know there was a recent last year, the end of last year, a recent White House executive order regarding AI. Can you give us maybe a few key points of what direction, or the gist of what it's moving towards?
Yeah, I mean, it's a public document. You can find it, it's released. But essentially it's a number of really strong recommendations within the government, right? So the government too, like the rest of us, is growing and learning about AI alongside us, right? And so there are a lot of things that just needed to happen within the government. And so for example, one thing is that they're creating more of a structured kind of like a consortium of AI leaders across all the federal agencies. I mean, that's such as they didn't need to have that type of thing before. A lot of things around workers and helping training workers. So yeah, and and I actually interact with other consulate offices, and these are global issues. So it's really interesting having conversations with leaders of other countries, because quite frankly, everybody's trying to figure this out right now, because it is the train and the track at the same time, right? The technology's here. Someone said once, I was speaking, she said, "Oh, well, Susan, when did I first interact with AI today?" And I said, "Well, what time did you pick up your device? Did you use your face? That was facial recognition. Did you get on any kind of website? Well, that's predictive AI, so yeah."
So after the White House executive order, at the federal level, what do you see as the next step that's being worked on?
Well, at the moment, the White House team is really going through every step of the executive order. So last week was just 90 days. And there's a press release talking about the 90-day mark of the executive order. And so they are literally, our committee works very closely with the White House AI team, and they are literally going through step by step of that executive order to execute. And one of the things that I co-authored with one of my committee members was a recommendation on AI literacy, and some type of AI literacy campaign, really to motivate the country to embrace an AI. And that's the one thing I would share with everybody here, is to really encourage you to be curious about it. Like try ChatGPT, understand what that is. That's a large language model. I mean, that's a different type of AI. but that's the type of AI that allows all of this other stuff and all these great things too. You can create a video, you can write an essay in seconds, you know, you can create this incredible art. So, but we need to, especially as women, be much more curious about AI, because right now there's a lot of fear. I hosted an event in LA with a congressman down there, and the room was packed with mostly educators, and you could just cut through the fear in the room. So that's a problem, right? You know, I mean, 'cause this is not like, you know, learning PowerPoint or Excel way back when. Like, this is like every single day, all day, we all interact with AI, so we should understand it.
Mhm. I see another question from the audience. Have you heard of any discussion to apply penalties to campaigns or candidates if they provide misinformation using AI?
Nothing. There are no guardrails. There's nothing. You know, I mean, I guess this is a kind of conversation on the regulatory side that they, you know, would have had maybe 2 years ago to get something in place, to get prepared for the election, you know, but no, I mean, we're like, what, 8 months out at this point? Mm-mm.
Yeah, I suppose the White House executive order is mainly some guidelines, no penalties yet at this point.
Well, and the executive order really is focused on federal agencies and the work within
Okay.
the agencies. You know, campaign is like not in the White House. It's like way over here. So yeah, it would really need to come from Congress or the FCC or the FTC, you know, that type of thing, some regulatory agency.
Okay, I have another question here from Eleanor. When the California Delete Act passed in 2023 becomes effective in 2025, will that provide sufficient safeguard for citizens? It's supposed to allow people to remove their name from social media sites and random mailings, or is that not sufficient?
That goes in effect in 2025. I mean, I would just say stay tuned, because can you even imagine where AI is going to be in 2025? Yeah, so that's going to be a game time decision, right? Because it's really going to be dependent on where the technology is at the time to see whether that really makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think there's a in California there's might be a new bill going in about putting watermarks on AI generated campaigns and such. Do you also heard of other states moving in the same direction? I guess everyone is trying to catch up
Yeah,
and
you know, I just read today that the Hawaii state legislature just put forth some language on this very topic. So I think the states are trying to do it as well. But again, I mean, the clock is ticking, right?
Mhm,
So like
mhm,
it really is around the corner, the election. I mean, and especially once we hit the summer, that's when all of this stuff is really going to blow up.
mhm,
And, you know,
mhm.
we're all going to be inundated. And again, this isn't just necessarily online, right? This is like on TV, where you typically would think, well, let me watch a certain network, but the network does not control the commercial space that's bought. So that commercial could be AI generated. Now, maybe there's something that's going to be required for that. I don't know. Everything's moving so quickly.
Okay. So us as voters, we just have to be super vigilant with
Mhm.
everything that we see, that we hear, that we read.
And be very aware of your clicks,
Mhm,
because you know what could happen. I mean, the ultimate goal is for either, you know, party to sway voters, whatever the voters are, wherever they are, right? That's the goal, is to sway a voter. And by providing misinformation, that we could be like, you know, oh, that looks, it's shiny apple, let me go check that out. And then by clicking, you know, we're starting to go down that path. And now we will start getting more misinformation. Look, I mean, look, like I said, I thought Taylor Swift was promoting La Crusade, you know, and I know this stuff, right?
I'm gonna invite my team members, Eleanor and Eileen, to join the conversation and ask some questions if they'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, well, I'll attempt to put on my hat as an educator. I taught for many years, and I know that many of our schools are trying to teach students about how to be savvy when they're using the computer and how to be savvy when they're quoting sources and being sure that they're quoting an accurate source and being able to track it down and where it came from. I'm wondering if there's any particular sites you could recommend for educators that would be good for them to be aware of and inform their students. I see a couple have been mentioned in the chat here that actually I haven't heard about before, but I wonder if you have others that you recommend to people.
You know, I wish I did have a good recommendation, but I don't. And again, that's today, right? Next week, one could be launched. And so, but what I do, I will get back to you all because next month, we're going to be launching an educator platform. So specifically, there's a video just for educators on educators in AI and students in AI and the pros and cons and risks and all that. So I'll be happy to share that. And if you can feel it free to share that with your membership. But yeah, but what as I do mention that the educator event or the event I went to was a lot of educators and there was just a lot of fear. And someone who's the head of a teachers union on the East Coast said, you know, yeah, people come to me all the time and say, I have the best AI tool for you and it's going to change your world. And her response was, well, how can I embrace an AI tool when I don't even understand it?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that. So that's where we come in as far as AI and the work that I do is about, it's necessary for people to have a foundational knowledge of AI. We're not going to be data scientists. We're just not, for the most of us, or machine learning experts. That's, you know, most of us are not. That's aside. What we need to have is a basic understanding of what it is. So then we can make some decisions, particularly if you're an educator or a worker. And then certainly, you know, we're talking about as voters. So I would just encourage everybody to visit our site. We provide information in what we call snackable pieces, just like like these videos. They're not 20 and 30-minute videos. They're just like boom, 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 you know, and then we add information like glossaries and Q&As and all that. But the intent is to help people create this foundational knowledge, to have AI literacy, to be AI literate.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free, you know, it's there's no charge for the content. Feel free to visit. And I promise you, you know, after 30 minutes, you'll know a lot more. But share that with your family and friends. Curiosity is key right now.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think one of the most important things that I learned just over the past year, and you actually alluded to it, and I think it should be emphasized, you know, we're all tempted when we open up our computer and some ad comes flashing in and it looks interesting. It just looks interesting. So I had a tendency to click on all of those. And then ironically, I would say to myself, oh my gosh, I just got 15 more things about the same thing. And then it finally clicked like, yes, every time you do this, you're going to continue because now they've kind of pegged you as, oh, she's interested in this topic. So we'll send her 50 more things on that topic. So I know how easy it is to click and how difficult it can be to kind of ignore, you know, yes. And I would think with the campaign things, you're going to have the similar reaction, you know, oh, this looks interesting. Or I saw one thing just recently about a candidate, a person who asked a question and I was, wow, that's a really, first of all, it was an inflammatory statement. And I decided not to click on it because I was worried that I would then be directed into all these other sites that contained a lot of inflammatory information that's not necessarily true. So it's just, you have to be aware, I think, of this is potentially what's out there and that you have to watch for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I see a couple of more questions, Frances.
Yeah, there's another question about, so various industry groups are all working on various watermarking systems, but it should be universal. So we need an industry agreed upon standard. Is anyone in the government focused on an industry standard working group, or will the Congressional AI Caucus focus on an industry standard?
Right. Well, I do spend a good deal of time in Washington, D.C., and I know the AI caucuses are both on the House and the Senate. They're all pursuing different things within AI, and I know watermarking is one of the topics. And at the same time, in reality, so we are where we were in February. If we really think about it, the odds of them writing something that industry doesn't block and that it gets passed and then regulated off to, the ecosystem within 6 or 8 months, it's probably not going to happen. Because there's so many other things, right? There's so many other things that need to be fixed with AI. And that's why all of a sudden, I just saw, in fact, day before yesterday, that lobbying dollars for AI has gone up in DC 185% in like 2 months, because all of a sudden there's a lot of movement. Will watermarking make it? Maybe. But, and the thing is that I really don't like to propose a problem without a solution. But unfortunately, when we're talking about AI and misinformation in this election, there aren't a lot of solutions. Ideally, we'd say, okay, go to this one place or site or whatever that we know you can check everything, but that doesn't exist today. And even if when something pops up, I think the volume, no one knows what to expect.
Francis.
Yes.
Okay. I want to mention, thank you to Susan. Last Friday, we have a legislative interview with California Senator Josh Becker. And in his interview, he mentioned something about watermarking, that he wanted to propose that for every content being created, whether that's music or essay or video, anything, that it should be watermarked. So perhaps we can put our concerns to his office and saying, should there be a standard? Should there be a committee formed to ask for, okay, what kind of a watermarking that is required? Maybe that will be included in his bill going forward. Something like that. So that's one way to at least ensure that watermarking, if it passes the legislators' vote, then it will be a requirement.
Yeah,
that would be one thing to consider.
Yeah, so we have a comment that says the watermark, they can also be faked by AI.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
The thing is that literally anything is possible. Anything is possible. So, more to come. But yeah, I just hope, I hope if nothing else that this event has, sparked some curiosity, then also to share this conversation with family and friends, because, I think it's just getting warmed up, like with the Biden robocall this week. I think things are barely getting warmed up. But thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I think us as voters, we have to educate ourselves and just know what we're watch for what we're getting into and keep up with all the changes and progress that are moving in this area. Thank you, Susan, so much for leading us in this conversation about AI and elections. Sophia, could we put up the slide again? I just wanted to remind our audience, we do have 2 more sessions with more information about AI and elections. This is later in February. So if you haven't registered, please scan the QR code or go to the web link listed here to register for the next 2 sessions. And then at the end here, as always, we have listed some trusted resources for nonpartisan election information that might be helpful. I know we talked about a lot of misinformation. So these are websites that the League does recommend to get some accurate information. So with the primary election coming up very soon in March, please feel free to screenshot this so you can have these resources handy as you research for the primary election. And lastly, if you enjoyed this program today, we invite you to join us as a member by going to our website. Or if you'd like to support us and help us put on more programs, please donate by scanning this QR code. The donation is tax deductible, and we are an organization run by volunteers, so we appreciate any support from the community. So again, thank you, Susan, for this conversation, and thank you to everyone for joining us. Good night. Oh, Sophia, can we go back to the resources slide? Okay, we'll leave that there for a few minutes.